Here we go.
Great.
Okay, so yes, today we are talking about Elementor forms, everything you need to know, and this will be Will talking to us about all of this one because he knows a lot more about that than I do. Oh, hang on, it's going way too fast. So yeah, just run through the agenda. 6 p.m. start. Welcome and introduction. So we'll do a quick little introduction. It'll be great to hear from both of you guys as well. Then we're going to take a quick look at what is new in Elementor. We look at this every month, and will be telling us about the small changes that have been made and looking at what is about to come up. And then obviously we'll go into the topic today. Will is our teacher today. And at the end of it, Q&A. So if you have any questions that you want to ask on anything Will talks about, just make some notes and we can just go through all of that at the end because it can get a little bit too technical, with an aim to finish at 7 p.m. or whatever time that will be in California. Oh man, this is like just going crazy on. Okay, so introductions. Okay, so this is the four of us that are normally here. Julia and Morris can't be here today, so it's just me and Will. But we'll just start off with a couple of quick introductions. Will, you're first on the list, so you can start.
Yep, cool. So I've been working with WordPress since 2006, 2007. Mostly what I call a back-end developer. So I'm not, I don't do design or anything. For that, I'm a coder. So I develop plugins, I do consultancy as well, and I'm actually moving a little bit more into online training as well. So I've got some courses that's going to help WordPress developers and designers kind of grow and scale their business as well. And I also help run the WordPress Sydney meetup. I'm trying to reboot the WooCommerce Sydney meetup, but there's not a lot of interest in that at the moment. And I'm currently vice president of Linux Australia, which is the kind of open source organization that represents open source communities and everything open source across Australia. That's me. Awesome. John.
Thanks, Will. All right. So I'm John, and I am the other side of the industry to Will. I am the designer, web designer. So I know nothing about coding and all the technical side, but I love making things look nice. And I have had sort of, let's call them bad relationships with other page builders before, like Divi and WP Bakery. And I found Elementor about 4 or 5 years ago, and I fell in love with it. And we're now married pretty much. And what I love about Elementor is just as a designer, it allows me to do whatever I want. And the other thing I love about Elementor is they just keep updating things. And what I've needed to buy extra plugins or pay for extra plugins to do, this is what Elementor keep building in as part of their program. So yeah, this is why I love Elementor, and I love just teaching people about what is new and the way you can do anything you want, sort of, in Elementor. Okay, so code of conduct and guidelines. I'm just going to post this link in the chats here if you would like to read that. We used to have the full list of the code of conduct down here, but as you can see from Will's favorite little acronym here, TLDR, which is too long, didn't read. But yes, be respectful is the overall thing to remember here. And when Will's talking, just make sure you're on mute. And if you have any questions, you can either post them in the meeting chat here or just write them down and ask them at the end. So we'll just throw it all over to Will. And then my mouse is going crazy. May the 4th be with you. I'm guessing today is the 4th. And Will, you have to help me out with that. Is that the dude from Apple or?
I don't know. That's just a picture I found online. I don't know who the dude is. There.
Could just be a random dude. I thought it was
just some random guy.
The other Steve from Apple, Steve Wazowski. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but it's not him, is it? But anyway, may the 4th be with you. So if you don't get the Star Wars reference, then the joke's lost on you.
Yep.
Okay, and then sorry, it's just moving stupidly fast. So yes, introduce yourself and your beverage. Will and I just did a very quick introduction to ourselves, what we do, how we use Elementor. So Steve and Paul, we'd love to hear from both of you. And just give us a quick introduction about who you are, what you do with Elementor, what you're looking to do with it. And we also want to know what you're drinking. So because it's 9 a.m. in the morning here, I'm not on the alcohol yet, and I'm drinking coffee, but unfortunately it's decaffeinated because that was all my parents had left.
I'm just on water.
Yeah, Steve and Paul, it'd be great to hear from both of you. Steve, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I'm in California. I've been using Elementor since it was like made public. So I think like maybe don't know, 5 years now or something like that. It was maybe 18 or something like that. And seen it go through all the phases. I take care of about 80 websites, and probably 60 of them are Elementor. And I'm starting to mess around with bricks builder, and my favorite beverage is Coca-Cola, and I'll be getting one here out of the refrigerator in just a second.
That's very American, that, yeah.
No, I mean, I did, alcohol back in grad school and everything, just kind of had enough of it. But anyway, yeah, that's me.
Good choice. Okay, thanks, Steve. Paul, would you like to just give us a quick introduction?
Hi. Yes, I'm in Melbourne. I run my own web business. I do full stack all the way from having my own servers on AWS, all the way through to design and build. I've been using Elementor since I started this about 5 years ago. My career was like 20 years in sysadmin and development at major corporations. So, yeah, I've got a sort of background in the full stack from infrastructure through to development. So I've got about 20 websites managed at the moment, and yeah, I just keep plugging away at it. And every time I think Elementor can't do something, it's a coming soon new feature that it's sort of like they add, and it's like, oh wow. And yeah, Forms is interesting because I've done a bit of work with using Contract Form 7 to then hook into my own PHP code. I did that. When I did that, Elementor didn't have that feature that you couldn't, it could just submit forms and emails and things. But it can do that now. So yeah, I'll probably start using Elementor for that as well.
Okay, thanks for that, Paul. Okay, so yeah, mum, I'm on a call. So my mum just walked into the room. We're doing a video lesson here.
Hey, Mum.
What do you think I'm doing here, Mum? Everyone says hello. No, because I said something to you guys. She thought I was talking to her. Anyway, so enough from my mum there. Okay, so now we'll just quickly look at the Elementor updates. And so I'll just pass it over to Will, if you would like to talk us through what the latest updates are, Will.
Yep, so version 3.12 has been released. There's been a few hot fixes in there for those. Mainly, the biggest thing that's been rolled out across them is the new color scheme. So they've kind of simplified the color scheme. It's kind of black and white or white and black, depending on which mode you use. And it's caused a little bit of upset in the Facebook groups. People don't like change, and when you change a user interface, it's always, a big thing. So that's probably going to change over the next couple of months. The developers, John and I are quite lucky to be in the Elementor Slack group where all the developers are, the marketing team. So they've said that, they're going to tweak it over the next couple of months. So don't expect it to stay exactly like that. And they are taking feedback back from people for that. But they want to simplify it. And they want to optimize it for accessibility as well. So I think they're doing a good job. But people just don't like change sometimes. They've also got a top bar. So a bit like WordPress, how WordPress has the admin bar. They're calling it a top bar, and it's going to have. It's an alpha experiment. So you have to switch it on, but it's going to have all your kind of favorite things. So you can dock all your more favorite components in there and tools. The big thing in there is going to be switching between desktop, tablet, and mobile. So somewhere that you can go all the time, that you know where it is, so you can switch between them. So I will definitely be using that. That's quite good. For Elementor Pro, the mega menu's been released. So John and I were talking about that offline just before this meetup. So we'll probably cover that in the next couple of months for that one. And there's a couple of things. They released the loop grid a couple of versions back. But now they've got what's called a loop grid alternate template, which means you don't have to have the same look for all your posts. You can specify which ones you want to look a little bit different. So for those, and again, just more stuff about the container-based template. So they're moving away from section towards containers, and all the rest just little tweaks and things. But that's the big things that were released. John, do you want to go to the next one?
Yep. I'll try and move it down slowly to the next one. Oh, no, didn't work.
That's okay.
There we go.
So this one here, they've released a few tweaks to the Hello theme. They haven't actually touched it in the past couple of years. Maybe 2 or 3 years, it hasn't been changed. There's nothing new been added, but they have tweaked some things in there. So if you are updating, just be aware that there might be some changes to, I think, text domain for that is mostly the tweaks they've put for those. Okay, John, one more.
Okay, try and do it slow. Oh, almost that time.
Almost. Okay, so Element have a roadmap. You can access elementor.com/roadmap for that, and yeah, they have got some new stuff that's coming. But I like to check this little roadmap. It just allows me to see, exactly what they're working on and what they've got in progress and planning. So I think this is the current one for May. I just took a snapshot of it, so you can see they've been kind of focused on the hosting. At the moment, they've had quite a few, not issues, but things that people were expecting from a hosting plan that haven't been in place. So they've kind of been working on that to do a little bit of catch up with the hosting. And you can see on the planning, we've got like nested stuff. So once these containers and Flexbox have been implemented, then things like nested widgets and containers will be a lot easier to implement. So they've got that coming in there. Interested in the beta version, they've got the Elementor AI. That they launched. I might cover the AI in a couple of months as well. I'm playing around with it at the moment. It's quite interesting. It's beta, shall we say. So, but they have some high hopes for what it could do. I think one of the most exciting features that they hinted about was being able to generate a featured image or images in there just by describing what you wanted. I think that'd be a bit of a game changer for WordPress in general, if you could just kind of generate AI images on the fly like that. Yeah, so that's that. John, I think that's the last one there. So
yeah,
I can switch over.
Yep, I'll stop sharing. So over to Will now for today's lesson.
All right, I'll get the right screen. There we go. Okay. So moving on to tonight's main topic. So today I'm talking about Elementor Forms. I've been using Elementor Forms for quite a while now. I still do use Gravity Forms for a lot of my client websites, just because I've heavily invested in Gravity Forms. I've been using that for like a decade, and I've got so many code examples. But I like the Elementor Forms for their simplicity, for the fact that clients can change and modify stuff, so they don't have to come back to me all the time if they want a new form built, or if they want a different type of form built. And it's part of the ecosphere as well. So, it looks the same as Elementor, it plays the same with the widgets. So from a training point of view, you don't have to spin up your clients on yet another thing for them to learn. So that's what I like about the forms as well. So let's just have a spin through the forms, just see exactly what they are. So forms is an element of the paid Elementor Pro version. So it's not available in free at all. So if you have the free version of Elementor, you'll either have to upgrade to Elementor Pro or use another form plugin like Gravity Forms or Ninja Forms or that sort of thing. So if you are looking for it in free, it's not there, you have to upgrade. So when you drag a form element onto your page, it sets 3 fields by default. So you've got your name, you've got email, and a message, along with a send button. And an email field is the only one that's kind of marked as required, and the others are optional. And this is just if you drag the component onto your page. Now you can delete all of these fields and you can create your own ones, but an Elementor form needs to have at least one field to capture data. So, if you're trying to delete all those stuff, when you get into the last field, you can't delete it. If you create another one, then you can delete that first one. And again, you don't have to set any fields as required. They can all just be completely optional, but it has to have one field and a submit button at the very least. Like most element controls, you have tabs for content, style, and advanced. The first thing you should probably do once you create a form is to give it a name. Now, the reason you want to give it a name is because you want something useful and relatable to be able to find your submissions. Now, when Elementor first rolled out forms, quite a few versions, quite a couple of years ago, then I think as Steve said that as Paul was saying, that they didn't have the ability to store the data in the database. So you had to, it's just basically submit an email and that was it. But now they do. So it's always good to, the first thing, make sure you give your form a good name so you can find it in the submissions area. And I also like to toggle on the show required mark as well. For some reason, it's disabled. So when you create a form, then people won't be able to see which fields need to be filled out, until they submit it. So I like to do a good form name and then make sure that the required mark is shown as well, just to give people an indicator as to what they need to fill out. Now, when you submit an Elementor form, the data is stored in the database, which is good, yes. And you can access the data from the submissions, and that's in Elementor submissions on the dashboard. Now, you can use the filter at the top. It's actually quite a useful layout. For this, I think they've mapped it very similar to the way that Gravity Forms works in the dashboard. So you can use the filter at the top to search your form by name. This is why it's always a good idea to have a really good relatable name. Or you can also filter by time, which is something that Gravity Forms doesn't have, and I really like this in Elementor Forms. So you can filter by today, yesterday, I think the last 7 days, the last 30 days, or a custom. And if you choose custom, it brings a date range down from there. So this is really useful if you've got a marketing campaign, that you've got a lot of emails coming in and got a lot of submissions. It's really good to be able to filter through them of particular date ranges, so you can go back to your campaigns, and just kind of isolate those ones that are being submitted. So I love that date range one. The columns you can see here is main. The main column is a bit strange to narrow that one down. It's kind of set to the first required field on the form, or the first field of the form if you don't have any required fields. So it kind of jumps around as to what this main field is. The action status is for when you've submitted the form. You can tag different actions to that, and we'll have a look at that in a little bit. But Elementor does track the status of all the actions. So it'll tell you if there's any errors there, or a green tick if everything's been done and there's been no issues with that at all. Form is a form name along with the element ID of the form it came from. So that's the 982CC72 reference you can see in the screenshot. So that's basically the form ID. The page is the pages that the form is embedded in. And ID, of course, is the form submission unique ID for that particular form submission. And then lastly, you have the submission date. So quite a lot of good, useful information on that submission screen. And I do like that custom date range where you can really drill down and find all your submissions that are coming in. You can also export it, all or filtered. So it's depending on how you've got your admin columns set up there, and the filters. You can export exactly what you need to a CSV file, which I think is great. You find a lot of these paid plugins, they don't come with an export feature, whereas this does. So the developers have really listened to people for that. So it's easy to get all your data out, and that's really, really good. Now, Elementor stores all the form data except for your uploads in the database in a separate non-WordPress table on several of them. There's 3 of them. Here's the first one. This is the table WPE submissions, and that stores all the submission posts. The next one next table is WPE submissions actions log. And this is where it stores all the statuses from all the different actions that you can link into the form. And again, we'll have a look at the actions later on. But that will just store any issues in there. And all this information comes up in the submission screen. So you don't have to go burying down in the database to get that if you don't want to. The last one here is WPE submissions values. And this is where it stores the actual field data associated with the submission post fields. So this is a similar way that WordPress stores its posts and post meta. So if you're familiar with that way, and so it stores all the field data in separate tables, so they can do a lookup for that. Now, you shouldn't need to muck around with submission data in the database tables, but it's kind of handy to know where this is stored just in case, and just in case, if you're a developer, you might want to pull out data or do something or manipulate it somehow. So it's always good to know that the data is stored in the database and you can access that at any time. So here's a default form submission. So this is just from the submission screen. I've clicked on that test submission that I had. It shows all the form field data, as well as the actions log, and some additional information like creation date, username, if the username was logged in, the user IP, the user agent, which is the browser, and stuff like that. So to be noted here is be careful to include a consent button on your forms, especially if you're working with European clients. So this is private information that Elementor form is grabbing, your IP and your user agent, and that's private information under the GDPR law. So if you are working for European clients, just make sure that you cover your bases with that, because Elementor forms will grab that data. And there's no option to say don't grab that data at the moment. You can also edit the submission field data here on the form, so you can't put in edit mode. So this could be useful if someone's maybe submitted erroneous data and you want to make sure that your full workflow is proper. So you can go and re-edit that data and just change that to what it should be in there, because that's quite useful as well, being able to edit submissions. Now, when you submit a form, the default action is to show a confirmation message. It says the form was sent successfully, and that appears just under the submit button. The form data fields are cleared from the form and ready for another submission, and an email is sent out to the site administrator just saying that there was a new form submission. Now, this default behavior is controlled in the content and the actions section, actions after submit section on the form element. So here we're in Elementor, we're in a page, I've clicked on the form that's been sent, and then on the right-hand side, so left-hand side, you've got your actions. So this is in the content section, and then we've drilled down into actions after submit section. So in the screenshot, you can see that the two default actions in the add action field are collect submissions and email. So whatever you've got selected in this action after submit field, you're going to see these sections below, and that they correspond to those. So because we've got collect submissions and because we've got email selected in that add action, then we can now see the little drop down accordion components for those. And if you go into those, the collect submissions, that just tells you, look, just navigate to submissions and you'll see those. The email has a little bit more options in here, and it corresponds to all the the different sections, the different data that you can control with the email. Now, it has a ton of controls, and most data fields can be replaced by dynamic tags as well for those. So you can pull in additional information. You don't have to just send default. You don't have to just type in stuff. So if you've got things in WooCommerce, you can pull out information on that product, titles, things like that. If you use ACF, you can pull out advanced custom field information. So it's good that you can have an option to change all that data dynamically as well. It also gives you access to site, meta, user, WooCommerce as well, if you've got that installed. So a whole heap of dynamic data that you can pull in. And just to note that every action that's added, obviously, the control panel is going to be a little bit different depending on what that action is. But those are the default ones there. So collect, submission, and then email, and you can turn them off. You can just get rid of them if you don't want those, or add some more to those. Now you can change actions. The form takes after submissions. There's quite a lot of options that are at hand. I've got them listed here, but they're collect submissions, email, email to. So you might want to send a couple of emails. So I'm thinking about Grafty Forms here, where it sends the sender a confirmation of what they've sent, and it sends the admin, here's a new email. So you've got two options of emails. You've got a redirect, so you can redirect to a URL. You can send the data along on a webhook. And then it's got integrations for some of the CRMs, the email systems, so MailChimp, Drip, ActiveCampaign, GetResponse, ConvertKit, MailerLite, and then a few kind of discussion platforms. So we've got Slack and Discord for those, if that's kind of what you use in your workflow. And the last option is pop-up as well. So, if someone submitted something, you could pop up, and maybe that'd be, maybe like a sell up or, something like that. But I do like the built-in webhook. And again, Elementor's really kind of thought hard about how people are using this. A lot of these things are premium add-ons for other forms, but Elementor's got this built in. So having the webhook here, if you're a developer, even if you're not, but mostly if you're a developer, you can start sending that data anywhere you like. Send it to Zapier and then just feed it out to whatever systems you need. So I love that that's built in to the form itself. Add a new form field is super easy. So now we're going back to the form, and we're thinking about the content within the form, the data fields. So this is in the content section still, and the very first drop down, which is form field section. It's easy, just click the add item button at the bottom, and you've got a choice of lots of different field types. So there's text, email, text area, URL, telephone, radio, select, checkbox, acceptance, number, date, time, file upload, password, HTML, hidden, reCAPTCHA, honeypot, and step. Yes, you can have step forms in Elementor. I've not played around with step forms that much, but it is possible to set up step forms in Elementor for those. So it's something I probably should have a little go with and see how that one works. So there's a whole heap of different field types that you can put in, which is great out of the box. You can get other plugins which add even more field types, but that's quite a decent lot that's built into the core of Elementor. And each field type comes with its own set of control options, just like the email one that we had to look at. So let's have a quick look at probably the one that I've used before, which is the file upload field. So this file upload field type, it allows you to set the form label, the required setting, the maximal file size as well. So you don't want people uploading gigabyte monsters. And it allows you to restrict the file extensions as well. And an option to collect multiple files. Now, I've used this on a couple of client websites, particularly where people are submitting applications. So, submitting CVs, submitting documents, submitting photos of different things. For those, so we've used these very, very well for that. The advanced section, so within each field control, you'll see there's a content and then there's an advanced. So the advanced section for each control allows you to grab or change the unique field ID or name, or choose a dynamic tag to represent that, and it gives you a little short code as well. And what that short code does is allows you to bring in that form data anywhere in this kind of submission process. And I'm going to give you an example of how to use that later. Fingers crossed the demo works, but we'll give it a go. Now, by default, Elementor stores all your file uploads in the folder on your server at uploads/Elementor/forms, which is okay if you've just got people submitting general stuff. But if you've got kind of more sensitive stuff, you probably want to get that out of the public domain. So you can change where Elementor uploads these files to. I've got a little code snippet on one of my blogs. I'll copy that into the chat. There you go. And this allows you to change the directory it stores the files in, and also the directory, the file path and the submission forms. You can actually read it. And so I recommend, if you are going to be allowing people to upload personal stuff, that you want to maybe store that folders outside the public HTML directory. If you've got access to that, most hosting accounts, you've got a kind of one step up from where people can see. So I usually store all my sensitive stuff, all the uploads in that one, and that means that nobody can actually get at those files once I've uploaded it. You can toggle custom messages as well for those. So Elementor comes with out the box ones for things like success, error, required, and invalid message. But if you want to customize those, you can do that. So putting your own text there, or again, you can bring in dynamic stuff as well. So you could have a ACF field with particular data depending on what they've done and depending on how they've submitted it, to bring in a success or error message for that. Maybe give them a little bit more help or guidance as to what they need to do. Now, I'm not going to go through the style and advanced tabs for those. They're pretty much the same as all the other elements in Elementor. Obviously, you can change the style of different components that make up the form, and change the padding, the colors, the fields, width, and all that sort of stuff. So all the good stuff is in there, but I'm not going to go through all that because it's relatively the same as all the other elements for those. Now, if you're a developer, Elementor Forms has a pretty decent, it's small, but it's a decent API. It allows you to do the core stuff, so it's nowhere near as granular as Gravity Forms. But there's enough to control things like validation, processing, and submissions. You can also hook into webhooks. You can alter headers, the message itself, and you can hook into the actions that are after the confirmation email has been sent out. So it's not extensive, but it's good that it's there. It allows you to do custom validation, for example, for that. So the developer docs, I posted those in the chat. down there, so you can have a look at those if you're a developer and want to do a little bit of custom fiddling around with the submission. Okay, that's pretty much all you need to know about the core Elementor form system, how it works, how you set it up, what sort of things you can do, what sort of things you can customize. So now I'm going to flip over to a little demo, and I'm going to show you how you can, well, maybe I'll go through a few slides first, but kind of how you can more implement this form within your business. Because looking at forms is one thing, but having an idea as to how you can actually implement that within a business style is something else. So the example I put is growing your email list. So the key to run a successful online business, I think, is getting people onto your email list as fast as you can, so you can sell products and services. Emails conversion rates are about 8 or 9%. I think they peaked at 9% during COVID, which is higher than most marketing mediums. So you get nowhere near that rate if you go on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. So you really want to get as many people onto your email list as possible. And in order to build your email list, you'll need some sort of valuable niche offer that people will be willing to exchange at least their first name and email in exchange for. So here's the very, very high level process of what you need to do. So you've got a lead magnet, which is your offer. That could be an ebook, guide, Canva template, workbook, free course, quiz, whatever it is. Something really valuable that people are going to get good value out of. They then exchange their name and email on the form for those. A thing about collecting information, try and collect the minimum amount of information on a form. The more information, the more fields you ask people to complete, the lower your conversion rates will be. You can always ask them afterwards to update more information. And then you've got your email confirmation that links to the instruction on how they can access a lead magnet for those. And the confirmation pages, quite often you can put like an upsell. If you like this, then you'll love this as well. That's quite common. So that's a very kind of basic high level overview of how you go about implementing some system to grow your email list. Now, Elementor Pro gives you all the tools that you need to implement this email list capture system. And that's why I love it. It's got everything under one roof. You can get rid of the header and footer on your landing page, which is vital to increase conversion rates. If you're looking to be serious about growing your list, then your offer page, get rid of your header and footer. The offer page needs to have just one action that they complete, and that is to submit the form with their name and their email to get onto the list. Then you've got landing page. So your landing page or offer page design is where you sell all the benefits of your offer. You try to solve all the problems for the person in your niche to try and kind of push them over to get them to complete the form. And of course, your form's embedded on your landing page here. Now, Elementor does have landing pages. So it's got a separate component. It's called landing pages. It's basically just a page without the header and footer. So I don't really use landing pages per se. I just build them as per normal and get rid of the header and footer. For those. The form, of course, captures the name and email of the subscriber, and then Elementor Forms can easily push that form data into your CRM, your email marketing system, or wherever else it needs to go. It's got lots of top service integrations, as we saw, but you can use the webhook with Zapier to then connect to thousands of other systems. If Elementor doesn't support your system, then just push it through Zapier and push it up that way. And then it's got dynamic data, which allows you to personalize the emails and responses after the form submission. And it's well researched in marketing, digital marketing, that if you're personalizing stuff, your conversion rates are going to be a lot higher. Your engagement's going to be a lot higher, and people just love that. So personalization is like a key component of this email capture system. So that's the complete cycle that you need to capture and contact details and grow your email list. I'm going to show you a quick demo as to how you can go about doing a little bit of that. Okay, let's see if this works. I shall flip over. Just be warning that I did a demo with the last WordPress meetup and it did not work at all. So here we go. I'm sorry if I'm looking this way because I'm on my other screen. Just see. Right. Okay, so I'm in just a demo website here. I've got Elementor Pro in here, and I've created a little page for me called Forms. So let's just edit that with Elementor. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to create a form. I'm going to submit the form, and I'm going to redirect that form to a personalized welcome page for that. So here we've got a form. look for the form, just drag it in. Okay, so I'm going to put this navigator. Here's a little tip. If you got this navigator that kind of floats around, hover it towards the right-hand side and then drop it and it docks into the side. So always do that. So this form, it's an email capture lead, so I don't need message. I'm going to get rid of that. And for that, I just need first name and email. So it says name. I'm going to make it a little bit more specific and say first name. And I'll change the label, the placeholder as well. First name. Now I want to go into advanced here. So in advanced, we get access to the ID of the field, which is what we're using to pass the data back to the redirect. So it's called name. I'm going to call it first_name. Okay. And here's a short code that we're going to need to pass that data in to help personalize our response. So I'm happy with that. First name and email for those. Required mark. There we go. I'll make this one required as well. Where do I do that in the content? There we go. Required. Okay, so they're both required. I'm going to update that. Now, what I want to do is I want to go into the actions after submit. I'm going to keep collect submissions because I want to see it in the back end. I'm going to keep email because I want to email the admin. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a redirect. Now, redirect redirects to a different URL. So all I'm going to do here is, you see here that now I've selected redirect. We've got the redirect accordion here. Come down here, ask you which URL to redirect to. So I'm going to put a URL in the site. So it's HTTPS. In fact, let's just copy it. So that's my site. I'm going to redirect to form-thank you. Now, we want to personalize stuff. We need to push the data in somehow, and we do this with the URL parameters. So I'm going to put one URL parameter here, which is a question mark, and then we want to pass the information that's coming from the first name field. So I'm going to go back to form fields here, go into first name, and this is where we go in the advanced for this. So there's the ID. That's what the field name is called. So we copy that. It's called first_name. Go back to our redirect. So question mark, and we put first name equals, and that's the parameter that we want. And then back to the form fields, we're going to go to email this time. First name this time, advanced, and we want the short code. This is going to pass whatever the person types into the form. And we can paste this short code in here. So we're passing this parameter called first_name. And then we're giving it that data that the person has typed in there. So that's going to be available for us to grab out of the next page that we're going to do. So let's update that. Now I need to create this page called form thank you. Form-thank you, and then do the personalization. So I'm going to go out of Elementor. Or I might just duplicate this. Okay, and back to the WP admin. And pages, let's create a quick page, add new. I'm going to call it thank you. And publish that. And just check to make sure that the page URL is -thank you, which is, okay. So now we want to build the personalization. So what I'm going to do here is edit with Elementor. I'm going to use the heading. And I'm going to use dynamic data here. So rather than type something in here, I'm going to click this little dynamic tags. And I'm looking down for request parameter. So because we've added something onto URL, we want to grab that request parameter out. Click on it again. Type get, and the parameter name we want is first_name. And I'm going to put before, I'm going to say thanks. And after, I'm going to put an exclamation mark, and the fallback is thanks, friend. So if there's no parameter data, that's what's going to show in there. I don't want this thank you at the top, so update that. I'm going to get rid of the title and update that. So that's our page ready. So what should happen is when we do the form, it should go to this page here with the URL parameter. It should pass the name on the form, and then we should see the dynamic data in there. So let's have a test of this. So I'm going to do Bob and see Bob at bob.com and submit this. So it should redirect. This page can't be found. Of course it. That's because that's an underscore, isn't it? Okay, and that's okay. That's my bad. Update this. Okay, let's try that again. Bob. And Bob at bob.com. Why is it not working?
Well, I think it's because that page you're going through, it says form_thank you as one word. And then when you created the thank you page, it was thank dash you. So I think that's the
thank you.
Because it was two separate words as thank you. So it put a dash in the middle of that.
Yeah, it wasn't form, was it? Okay. I'll refresh that. What could go wrong with live stuff? Yeah, it's almost fine. There we go. Thanks, Bob. So that's a quick personalization there. Obviously forgot the space, but that's just me. Advanced. Thanks in a space. Update. So I'm just going to use that. So you can see at the top here. So it's passing that first name, and then it's passing that because we use the shortcode, that data from there. So of course it doesn't really matter what it is. I can just fake that URL for there. And if there's nothing there at all, then it defaults to that fallback, which is just thanks, friend. So again, really, really quick to personalize stuff for those. I recommend that you do that dynamic stuff, do the personalization when you're playing around with forms as well. And that's the same with the emails. So when you're looking at the forms, if you have a look at the email, see here, we can send so a new message from, and it's got the site, but you can say new message from, and then that short code, which is in here. Copy that there, and then email. So new message from that one. That was say new message from Bob or new message from Will. So you can kind of start getting all that kind of dynamic updates for your fields. Okay, that's that one. Let's jump back to here. Last one is what I've done here is I released a little plugin. It's not in the plugin repository yet. The plugin team are struggling. They've got like 400 plugins that are still reviewing at the moment. But what this one does here, and I'll drop it down in there, is it allows you to add a block list. Now, there's a lot of people complaining about Elementor forms. It doesn't have like things like blocking or spam filters or things like that. And it's still a relatively new core element for those. This one does here is when you install that, then in the form field, you'll see down at the bottom, there's an email blacklist box. It's just a text area. So it's a comma separated list. So you can basically block things like at Gmail, at Yandex, anything you want, a particular person. And then when they try and fill out that form, it just won't be accepted. So if I drill back to here and then go back to the dashboard, let's go down here this way. So I've got the plugin in here, but it's not switched on yet. Here it's here, so activate that. Elementor Pro plugin. Of course it doesn't work. All this worked fine this afternoon when I tested it, of course. No, for some reason it's not going to work. But anyway, let's jump back to the Prezzo. What it should do is put that there, and then when you type in anything there, it just matches what's in the boxes there, and it basically creates a validation error. So if you want to block out Gmail or block out Yandex or block out particular people that are spamming you or domains, then you can easily put that in the blacklist. And then once you click on send, they can't bother you with those forms. So a very, very simple implementation if it works. I'll have a look at that later. But just a nice way to be able to kind of, get rid of some sort of level of spam for your forms. That's it. That's all we've got. So do some kind of Q&A. But before I slip out the slides, so next month, so it's the June the 1st, I'm going to be talking about how to use those Flexbox containers. So Flexbox is the new system that is hit beta just now in Elementor. At some point, the whole of Elementor will be moved over away from sections into containers. So it's best to get to know it and play around with it just now. So I'll basically go through what Flex containers are, the difference between sections, how to convert them, what Flexbox is, and how to kind of position elements round about for those. Okay, that's it. Well, let's stop there. And if anyone's got any questions about any of that, then fire away, or any general Elementor, and we'll try and point you in the right direction.
I got a question. Do you ever notice that when you try to put the email field in the reply to email that it doesn't show up? It's like just blanks out and it just has a check mark, but it goes there. It just has a check mark.
Oh no, I've not experienced that.
It happens all the time. I don't understand. And I just think, man, why am I screwing around with this? But it's just something. It's just the finicky stuff. Sometimes I just wish people didn't want their websites so fast anymore, because I would just hard code it to write, the old way.
Yeah, I mean, I still like I like the idea of building stuff from custom up.
I do too, but that's time and money, and
yeah.
People, Wix has done a horrible job for us here, and even like Elementor ads have done a horrible job for us here, because everybody thinks with Beaver, Wix, Shopify, that they can build their website. They can probably, but it's going to not be very good. But they can. So here it's very competitive.
It is.
I totally agree with you there, Steve. I've had a lot of success actually converting people away from Squarespace. Squarespace seems to be very popular here, though Wix, Weebly, and they take one look at it and go, oh, this is great for $5 or whatever it is you get to start up. Oh, I can do it myself. And they very quickly discover that, yeah, they can do it themselves, and it looks exactly like they did it themselves. And they just don't want all that hassle. And in the end, I come in and say, well, I can do it for less than what you're paying for Squarespace to do it yourself, So, yeah, had a lot of success. With your email thing, I've not seen that, but that sounds like JavaScript. Is that verified platform, or have you tried it on different browsers and things?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've tried it on everyone. From Brave, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Opera. it just it'll just happen, and then it's the same old thing, like when you're working on a text box and you don't see like the returns, like you're typing over here, and then you go into the Elementor, you got to refresh your CSS and all that stuff, and then you come back, and you might have to do it 3 or 4 times for it to show up, but it's going to show up. And there's some finicky things.
I've never seen that, but I have seen similar sort of weird things, and it usually it comes down to a JavaScript error that's a conflict between Elementor, which uses a lot of JavaScript, and a plugin that's doing something else. And JavaScript has this annoying thing, particularly if you haven't coded it properly. You hit an error, it just dies, and the whole stack, because it's a single thread running through all the stack, as soon as it dies, everything that's underneath that dies with it. And so all these things then don't happen, even though they're totally unrelated to what it is you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I run into that problem because I run a Mac, and so there's all that stuff. But and that's interesting. I didn't even think about that, because I was running into it yesterday, and there was an update for Java, and I just did it before this meetup. So that could have been the issue.
Have a look in the browser console and see what JavaScript errors are throwing up.
Yeah, I mean, and I do usually, and I just didn't do it this time. And I was like, man, it happens so often. It's regular, and even like I was working on a header and I had a menu because it was for a test site, and I was showing that how you can nest things in toggles, like you can put like, a section in a toggle, and you can put, form in a toggle, because we had a central time zone Elementor meetup on Monday, and somebody asked, or yesterday, actually it wasn't central, it was mountain time zone, and somebody asked, can you put a nest in a toggle, right? So I said yeah, and I made a little thing show them out. But anyway, screwed around with that. The page I had was the dang I made the the logo menu and a little phone number over here and an icon list, right? And we talked about it in the meetup about, it's like, can be weird. And Angela's going to set it up as a bug, because all of a sudden you could go from percent to, or pixel to REM to M. It just depends on however you set, could be random. And I was looking at it in the editor, and everything was cool. I display it, and it's huge. And I'm like, what the hell? And so every time I would go in a preview, it'd be big. And what was happening was it was taking 1.5 REM and making it be 15 pixels. And it was making it 15 REM on a damn the desktop. So the damn thing was huge. And I was like, why does this keep coming in wrong? And it wasn't showing up wrong in this code in the inspect. It was just some screwed up thing, and it could have been with the Java again, because there was an update. And that's a good thought. Thanks for the insight on that, because I thought about that, but I never really put two and two together really. But so that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. It can often be a completely unrelated plugin, just so it generates the error that then nothing else happens after that.
Absolutely.
That's it. It's so annoying when it's an unrelated thing, because you'd think it'd be like an Elementor plugin, and that's what you go and look at, but
right. And then if you could just put it in together, just put it a little bit cleaner. Would just wish it was a little bit cleaner, because the options to clean up the DOM and everything. It's just not as nice as I probably would have done it if I was coding it myself. So, but what can you do? You can put a site together relatively quickly, and it just I can blast them out, and a couple thousand, and get a maintenance contract out of it. It's pretty good. So I can't really complain. Been doing it for a long time, so it's a whole lot better than taking 4 weeks to get a site done. And yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot quicker in Elementor, and they have. I do look at the structure, behind the scenes, quite often, debugging it, and the whole stack of HTML, the number of divs and things they're using have been compressing quite, over the 5 years. It's become quite more efficient compared to
that too, right. And I've been using the beta, flex boxes and all that stuff since they first came out and told us not to. I said, no. I'm gonna use them, and that's what I'm gonna do. And we'll worry about it. If it blows up, I'll fix it. So I didn't blow up on me. I didn't get any of that when like Reno was talking about, oh my gosh, you can't change the padding. None of that affected me. All my stuff was solid, and it does reduce all that. And I have messed around with everything from I wonder if I could just take this completely out of this container, just put it in all one container, and I screwed around with how to fix all that. I played with it excessively, and I'm pretty good at it now. Things, I get good scores even on page speeds on the phone and everything. So when people start in meetups and they start blasting on me generate press and all that stuff, and I just say, okay, my sites are pretty fast. And
they did when Google released that Cobra Vitals. There was an article that somebody published that really slated, how Elementor websites were like super slow and that was going to, push them over the edge. That kind of scared. I'm talking, but I guess it put some sort of scare in the Elementor teams, and from that point onwards, they put a lot of effort into condensing the amount of output that's going, and then they decide to go down the containers route. So, yeah, I get good scores with Elementor sites as well.
Right from the get, actually, and I've actually found it. I get a little better scores sometimes if I don't everybody's like, okay, we're going to use, some kind of caching, got to do it, whatever. Okay. Well, a couple of years ago, I had most of my sites with Liquid Web, and they lost my MySQL database 3 times in a year. Right. So thank God I was using managed WP, and I had offsite backups every day. And I could, of course it's pain, like 25 sites go down and everybody wants their site up and you got to get their database back. So it's kind of a pain, but, and it, it moves so fast too. Right. So, but I was able to work, but then I said, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm paying a lot of money, and I can go to Kinsta and I'll just let Kinsta handle all that crap, and I won't ever really have to worry about it. Right. I'll still run, manage and do that stuff, but Kinsta will handle. So I moved to Kinsta. Everything was great. And of course, they don't want you really doing too much with their caching, and there are only a few things that they'll let you do. And so I was still trying it and have some people on in motion and things like that now. And I think that I get better scores if I don't put a caching if I start a site from scratch and I don't put a caching program on it and I have it on a good host, I don't think I need I don't think they score better with caching. I think if you do those Elementor changes to make things faster, you don't need the caching. Have you found that, Will, or John, or Saul? Have you had any of that experience, or do you still think that you need to do like auto optimize or Rocket or anything like that?
Yeah, I've used auto optimize and a few other things. I don't over cache. Some people just have caches upon caches upon caches upon caches. A bit of caching, I think, helps, particularly the minify on like the JavaScript libraries and CSS, because there's just so many of the things.
Yep.
But I run my own hosting on Amazon Web Services because I've got a sysadmin background, so building bare metal works for me. Yeah. And just being able to control the whole stack and not have to worry about some ISP that won't. Often the problem is they won't implement modern standards. They'll put something in 5 years ago and that's what they're still running. And I had to pay some ISP to go from PHP 5 to 7. It's like, right. And this is only a couple of years ago, and it's like,
right.
5 was out of service 2 years back, and you were still insisting on running it. What the hell? So now I do it myself, and I can run, the version that I'm comfortable with.
Right.
Not quite bleeding edge, but definitely current version. And I can tweak everything. I don't have to ring up help desks and try to explain to them what their job is.
Right.
They can do it for me. So
Right.
I think the biggest things I've found with performance are hosting, and I'm happy with that, and image size. And I put short pixel on top of all websites.
Me too.
And included it as part of my plan, and just automated. Just told my clients, upload your file and short pixel will sort it, and then I put a limit on the image size so they can't upload images that are more than a meg, because they're uploading 20 meg images. And that's fixed pretty much all my performance problems. Every time I had a slow site, it was always they had 2 megabit page files.
Something ridiculous. A background file. The background file is some ridiculous size or something like that. What about, like, do you guys use Cloudflare? Are you guys big Cloudflare? I mean, if you use I use that, I do that, and I use the free version of Cloudflare, and it seems like it's all my sites kick ass. And it's free. And even like I was using Bunny for a little while, and that was cool. And I still have some sites on Bunny, but I think Cloudflare is a little bit better than Bunny, but it works. everything works real nice. I mean, you don't have to switch, you don't have to like set the DNS service, the name service, like with Cloudflare, but Cloudflare is simple to set up. So, and it's free. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, for me, for performance wise, same as Paul. So hosting, that's your time to first byte.
Yep.
That's important. There's nothing you can do about that except for change hosting. Image sizes is the big one. People just uploading stuff from their iPhone. The other big thing that I find is being able to defer scripts to the bottom, because you'll get a lot of render blocking scripts.
Yeah.
So if you can push as many scripts down to the bottom and load the main content in first, then once that's done, your Google page speeds are going to be up like lightning fast. Yeah. So yeah, I'm with Wordify.com and they use Bunny. Yeah, I've not had any problems with that, but other sites I just run it through Cloudflare free.
Yeah. I mean, I've used Bunny. Paul from WP Tuts, when the Bunny first came out, I saw it and I thought, I'm gonna give that a try. It seems pretty easy, I mean, it's super easy to set up. So I just gave it a shot and it worked really nice. So I was happy. So. I certainly appreciate everything that you do. You do your forums. You were talking about, you need leads. One of my clients is you reckon this is a bartending school, right? And in California, we don't have any regulations on that. And it's crazy because I was a university professor, right? So I'm all about like the accreditations and all that kind of stuff. And you have to, University of New South Wales, they got to get accredited before they run a program and all. Well, the same situation here, like UCLA, University of Michigan, like all the big schools, that's a big deal. And bartending schools don't have any regulation at all. And you can actually say that your school is like 100-hour school, and then Paul's school is a 60-hour school, and you got John's a 50-hour school, and my school is a 30-hour school, and we're both going to say, all four of us are going to say we're going to put out a bartender, right? Well, my guy's a 100-hour school, and he's been in business longer than all of them, and we put everybody else out of business. But our biggest deal is our lead generating forms, right? Because we have to get them on the site. We have to get them to fill out the form, and then we have to contact them. And, we run a pretty aggressive sales campaign. And then once a year, we put out a deal, and, we don't let anybody we just got to cut off the cutoff date, like October, because if you send it from, cut off a guy and give it somebody in November signs up for the full price, and you give it for half price, 2 weeks later, people flip out, reverse charges and everything. Right. So, but it's and all that stuff that you were talking about with the hookbacks. I mean, I send it to Zapier, and then I send it from there. It goes to Excel, and then Airtable, and then we have an Airtable lead thing that I have generated so that we can see what salesperson took it on the client, and if they enrolled, when they enrolled, how many. So we get a pretty good idea of how aggressive or not aggressive our sales team is. And then we've had great success with social media advertising, which we used to do a lot of Google AdWords, and we found it. Well, he didn't want to go. The owner didn't want to go social media because he didn't think he could measure it first. I said, no, we can get a pretty good measurement. And now that they have Facebook is completely screwed up with Meta, but they're getting good. You can get all the data you want from. It's easier than Google, this GA4 crap, but
it's more competitive as well. I think with the pricing, Google's just really, it's the top, it's most expensive one.
And it's super, super expensive. Like we save, we spend about $3,000 a month at bartending school. And when we were just doing Google, we spent about $6,000. And we get better conversions with Facebook, because we can actually like pick the neighborhood, Well, they screwed it up last October, but now we're back to being able to pick the neighborhood real good. So
TikTok started to have like an advertising ad platform now. So
yeah, TikTok's pretty good, and
could be one to watch.
Yeah, Gary, we do some work on TikTok, and we have the pixel installed and stuff. But the problem with TikTok is they're kind of like Facebook was about 7 years ago. They don't have the solid metrics yet that Instagram and Facebook have, since they kind of combine. But it's crazy because they say to us, we're going to give people job training, so we have to offer to 18 to over 18, and then they say, well, you're an alcohol thing, and so you got to be over 21, because in the States you got to be 21 to drink. Well, we don't have alcohol at the bartending school. What are you talking about? Like, we're a school. We're not a bar, right? So if you go to the bartending school, you have the alcohol bottles, so you can feel like the bottle of Crown, right? Because you have to learn how to pour. If you're going to work with the Crown bottle or a Jack bottle or a wine bottle, you have to learn how to pour with the stuff, right? So, but it's just the color. Like, we use food coloring to dye it brown. If it's whiskey, it's a true story. Well, so
what they think that the bar people are actually sitting there drinking.
That's what they thought, right? So check this out. We were getting these. So when this meta came in and they come with this new stuff, so last October, we ran our ads. Our ads all got deleted, violations, right? And so we got just crazy violations. And so I had to deal with these every time I create an ad for the bartending school. I gonna get rejected. I have to make a call to the business specialist. I get on in a chat with them, and then we go through it, and I raise hell and have a full blown thing in a text editor ready to rock and roll, stip it in there, because it's a huge narrative that I took 3 days to write in a professor, like dropping 50-cent words and all that. And so all that just on there, right? And I send it like, what the hell, but I don't say what the hell. And then they call me. They said, we're gonna call you right now. So I have to have them call my desk line, because of course my iPhone's not going to pick it up, because they're not going to have their number. They call my desk line, I pick it up, and it's Will calling. And it's in these, they're not from United States. And I have to listen and like try to pretend. And finally I say, check it out. See you, John. We're not doing this. This isn't a drink. It's a school. Like, you can be a bartender. You can go to bartending school at 18, because you can work as a bar back and a server at 18 in the United States. You just can't take the actual drink and have it in your hand and have the open beverage so that you could go like that, take a nip off it, right? Because we're crazy in the States, we're like puritanical weirdos. And so, you don't have it right here. But anyway, so all that, and it's just, you have to educate them every time. And then what they do is they go like, let's say Paul and I are the people in touch with the businesses, and you're the leader, right? So we got to go back to Will, say, we'll approve this ad. And then, we send it up to you, approve it. And then like 12 hours later, it gets approved. So that takes about 2 days, because you got to put it out, and then it could be 3 actually. And it takes like 24 hours for them to say, okay, or no. Then you got to find it, you got to wait till the email comes. So, unless you're checking your email every second, right? So it takes an hour or two, you see it after that. And then you have to fight with them. So they don't, and they you got to go through the cycles. And, they won't do a blue jean meeting anymore. You used to be able to get a blue jean meeting with them anymore. And since they switched to this new meta bull crap, and, it's just amazing. And between them and the Google 4 stuff, the GA4 stuff is just, it's ridiculous. And then of course, there's the only reason you have to do the GA4 is because if you got a client like this guy, he's all about, I have my AdWords, and he wants to be able to tie it in there. But some of my other clients, I could just do like a basic. They just want to know like how many people come. WP Manage gives me that. Manage WP gives me that. And I don't do Maine, because Maine, I gotta buy no hosting space. Like, I got all my friends in these meetups. They're like, you do GoDaddy product. Check it out, man. Just because GoDaddy bought the team, it doesn't mean it's a GoDaddy product. It's a great product. And it doesn't cost me but maybe $50, and I can take it down and I have all my sites on there. Yeah. And I don't have to screw around with hosting. And they're like, well, just get a Vultr server and go on Hexter. And that's why I use Kinsta, because I'm not Paul, and I'm not trying to be a sysadmin. I'm a programming developer kind of guy. I'm not trying to worry about allotting space and spinning up crap. I'm happy to spin up a MAMP server or a local server locally, and then that's about all the spinning I'm trying to do. And yeah,
I used to be exactly the same. I used to have DigitalOcean droplets. I had main on there as an instance, but I kind of, my background has always been a little bit sysadmin as well. But I was spending so much time just updating the operating system and spam
That's what I'm saying.
filters and
Right.
all that sort of stuff, upgrade CentOS again. You know,
All
it just
that crap.
it wasn't worth it. I'm just happy to pay $20 a month to manage WP, and it just does it for me.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like I can just log in and it's all there. It's beautiful. And you know, that's the coolest. And that's the, I mean,
I win. I'm the real sysadmin.
You are.
With everything.
well, I'll send all my crap to you,
do
Paul.
all
I'm
the
like, you know,
updates.
I have your contact information in, brother. I'll send it to you.
WP running everything. I just sit back and watch the emails. So yeah, I win. I win.
Just give me your instant messenger, man. Because I tell you what, about this time in the morning for me, coming up on 2:30 here, is usually when shit hits the fan, and I'm always wishing, man, I could use somebody right now that's just like you, baby. Because I've had all kind of crap happen and it's always the worst time at the time. You know, it's either Sunday or it's friggin', you know, 2 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, and you know, you're trying to get something done and just, I got you, buddy. I'm putting you in here, man. Don't worry, baby. Yeah, that's good. So, and I do use that all those extra things. Oh, and then on the spam for the element, I've had good luck with the honeypot and reCAPTCHA 3, and you know, here in the States, we can hide that code, and you just got to put the little disclaimer. And none of my clients really marked to the UK. They're, you know, my big clients sell homes, so like mobile homes, you know, manufactured homes. So we're not, you know, you're not coming, we're not selling one to you, you know, and so. And the amount of money that they're doing, we don't have to worry about like the California strictness. Because those are only like if you're doing like $50 million, $50 million, you know, and they're not doing $50 million. So, yeah.
Well, thanks very much, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. It's good to get you here, Paul. It's good to meet you, Steve.
Yeah, man, and I appreciate it. I'm sorry I didn't get back at you though. You did send me. I felt really bad because you sent me a thing asking for what I wanted to learn out of this, and I just was like, man, I'll just come to one of your meetups and tell you. And I just joined all your stuff, followed y'all, and I was already following you in a couple of the platforms, but I wasn't on Instagram, so now I am, and I'll pay attention. And every month, the first Wednesday or the first Thursday, is that
first Thursday? Yeah,
first Thursday for you, because I'm the second Thursday, and one of my good friends is the third Thursday, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that works out.
I just have to be awake. So yeah, right on. Nice to meet you guys. Everything's cool, and hope to see you soon.
Yep, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.